Hi, first year computer animation students. I'm going to be trying to show you today how to start modeling your Lego pieces for your Mega Blocks assignment. So I'll just walk you through some of the steps here today. So the very first thing I want to show you is actually the assignment itself, so that you're clear on what this is going to look like. So in your Google Classroom, you should see assignment that's been added called Mega Blocks Final Project. The reason why it's called Mega Blocks is actually kind of an offshoot of Lego, just so you know. But it is basically Lego pieces. This is your final project. It's worth 100 marks. And I'm not expecting this to be done until Friday, June 12th. So basically, once you finish your Blender Man walking, jumping, your robot project, and then your rubber duck animation, this is the next thing you should be working on. And like you can see, the 100 marks suggest that it's going to take you about 6 weeks to complete. So essentially, a couple of things that you'll see in here is you'll see a link to the Mega Blocks Vehicle Project, which is basically your rubric for how I'm going to mark it. I'll just click on that so you can see what that looks like. So this is basically your rubric, and the first 40 marks is essentially for how well you have designed each of your Lego pieces and then brought those pieces together to form an actual ATV looking vehicle. And then you can see the step 2 would be building a landscape or a scene in which you can travel around the vehicle in. And then step 3 is actually animating that vehicle traveling around the landscape. And then step 4 is using a video editing software such as Windows Movie Maker to combine the 2 videos that you're going to have to do. The one being the Lego pieces coming together, and the second being the vehicle traveling around the landscape, and adding titles and credits to it along with some sort of music or sound effect to complete the whole thing. So you can see this, and please look over this to understand how I'm going to be evaluating this. The next thing that you can see here is you have an ATV JPEG image. So if I click on that, this is going to guide you as to what pieces you'll need to eventually make this ATV vehicle that you see down here. And while we're here, what you're going to want to do is you can right click on here and save this image as, and I would strongly suggest you save this in your C drive. So if I go to my computer, I go to my C drive, and wherever you've been storing your particular computer animation files. In my case, I created a computer animation folder, and in there I created a textures folder, so I'm just saved the ATV folder right in there. So then the last thing I wanted to show you is basically, let me just go back into that screen here again, that there is a YouTube video here as well of an example of a final project. And I'm just going to click over here so you can see this, but basically this is the YouTube video here. It's about 1 minute and 9 seconds. That's how long this particular animation was. But also I just want to remind you that there are YouTube videos to help you with the rubber duck animation, to help you with the Blender Man walking, jumping animation, and also examples of what the robot project might look like. So this is all available in this YouTube channel. So if you want to take note of this URL, you can always access this at any point. But I'll just click on this so you can see what this is going to look like. So we'll just look at this for the minute or so. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to have a title that includes your name and what you're going to be showing. And then obviously there is some sound that you want to have in here. So they created sort of this dramatic scene, this sound. And I'll just turn up the volume a bit so you can hear it. But basically you can hear the sound here. Just going back there for a second, you can see the Lego pieces that you build. You're going to have them come in one at a time to form the vehicle. And what you basically want to do is when you're building your Lego pieces, you're going to build them all around sort of a central point where the camera is going to be focused. So the pieces should all be outside of the view of the camera. And then as you start to animate them coming together, you're just starting to bring them together and making them fit. Now, before you ever actually do the render, you're going to want to double check that all the pieces do in fact fit nicely together, that they are scaled appropriately, and the materials, in other words, the colors, are all appropriate. So then the next step after you've done that video is you're going to have that grouped or that joined pieces of your vehicle travel around an environment or landscape that you've designed. In this case, this person chose to do a sort of an Egyptian landscape, and because at this point there were 2 people, they actually created 3 separate landscapes. In your case here, you don't need to create 3 separate landscapes, 1 would be sufficient. But please note the complexity of the landscape and the thought process and how they adjusted their camera angles to really give you a sense of what's going on with this scene. So it's very well done, a really neat thought. Obviously this is from the Lion King sort of example here, but really neat thought. And then at the very end, you should have your title credits of who did it and any music and stuff giving credit to those people. So let's just jump back over here. So I'll stop share there and click over here again. So I'm going to go to the Blender file now here, and let's take a look at how we can do this. So I'm just going to show you first of all what it is I'm sort of going to be getting towards. So what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and bring up that ATV building instructions image in my background as an image, background image, and then I'm going to use that as a basis for building my pieces. Now I'm not going to in this video walk you through every single piece, but I will show you basically how this should be done. So going back to a new file, what we should do here is we should basically in here, we obviously want to go into orthographic view, we want to go into top view, and I'm just going to for right now delete out that cube. And then to get a background image in, if you recall, you're going to press N, and in this toolbar that pops up here, you're going to choose background image, click on here and choose add image, and then choose open. And then this is where you would have saved that ATV image in there to whatever folder you put it in. So in my case, it's my C drive and my documents under computer animation, and I'm opening the ATV picture. Now, by default, this is a size 10. I'm going to make this size 50 just so it's a little bigger. And I'm going to press the letter N again to get rid of that toolbar because I don't really need to see it anymore. So now if I scroll back out, I can sort of see what this is looking like. And I'm going to actually shift and scroll wheel to move my screen down a little bit. I'm going to zoom in a little bit on my first step. So I'm not going to go through every single piece here, but I will show you a few sort of steps. I'll do these pieces right here with you. So essentially what you would want to do here is you can, let's say, click on right here, and you can add a cube. And so in here, what we have here is we have a cube. And now, in essence, what we want is this cube is, as a cube would be, exactly the same size on each of the three axis sides. But what I would like to do is I'd like to scale down these axis sides a bit. So I want this to be thinner and less wide than it is long. So I'm going to S, Y, and I'll do 0.4 to scale this down. So that's essentially giving me this width I have here. And then I want it to be quite thin. So I'm going to S, and then I'm going to Z, and I'm going to go 0.2. So what I've done here, if you can see, is I just basically made a very thin looking piece here. So I'm just going to go back to top view. And now just to make this a little bit easier to see when I start adding my cylinder, I'm going to go over here to materials, and I'm going to add a material. And I'll call this a black gray because I don't know what else to really call it. But basically a black gray. And I'm just going to go to diffuse, and I'm going to not bring it all the way down to black, but I'm going to bring it up a little bit so it's a little bit kind of more blackish gray. So you can see the kind of color we're getting. I might also take the intensity of the specularity down to about 0.1 so it's not so sheeny. And so now what I have in top view is I have this sort of part of my piece here. Now you can see, and I'll just zoom in a little bit, that we need to have a cylinder that is the little piece. I'm sure you're all familiar with Lego, and there's a little piece there that will fit there. So all that requires in essence is a cylinder. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add mesh cylinder. And now clearly this cylinder is going to be much, much too large, but I'm going to scale this to 0.3, and that should suit fairly well for it. Actually, I might even, let me just undo that, and I'll scale it to 0.2. Yeah, that might even be better. So I'm going to keep this as gray right now, just so it's easier for me to see, and I'm going to position this basically right in the middle here using my translate manipulator. So that's that tool here. And so then if I look from front view instead, I should be able to sort of see where this is positioned. So I want this to pop up a little bit right there. Now, at this point here, I'm going to go back to top view. This is looking not too bad for this one here. What I need to do now is I need to do a second one. And so rather than joining this first of all, I'm going to do this before I join. So I'm going to press Shift D, and then I'm going to press the Enter key so I get this translate manipulator back. And I'm going to drag this over to make the second piece. And now while I have this here, I'm going to click on here and do the same thing. Shift D, press the Enter key, and I'm going to drag this circle over, and I'm going to position it here, and then I'm going to Shift D, press the Enter key, and then drag this one over a little bit as well. So I've got two pieces right about here that I have. And looking at this, I may have wanted to make this circle maybe 0.25. I'm not sure, the cylinder, rather than scaling to 0.2, but this should work. So now if I want to, I can go to materials now here, click on new, and I can, rather than try and create that black gray again, I just go over here, click on this icon to the material button, and I'll see my black gray, which will apply it there. So now if I wanted this to be the exact same, what I could do then, if I wanted to join this now, what I can do is while I have this piece selected, I can then shift, right click on the other piece and Control J so that this is just one individual piece. Now, before I do this with the other one, I'm just going to shift, actually no, that will work. So I'm going to click on here, and I will click on new, and then add this as black gray as well, and add this as material black gray as well. I could have actually just joined these all together as well. That would have worked. So I'm going to shift right click on these three pieces here, and then Control J to join them. Now, at this point, I'll just go into here so you can see this is what my pieces are basically looking like. Now, what I want to do is I want to, now, while this piece is joined, I'm going to select this. I'm going to Shift D to duplicate, press the Enter key, and then drag this over. And now I don't know if you can see that, but it says 2 here. So I want 2 of these pieces. So I'm going to duplicate that. And then I'm going to go and Shift D again. And I'm going to duplicate here the other 2. And I will, before I do this one, I'm going to change this material color now. So in this case here, this one here, I need to get rid of the material color, and I need to instead click new. And I'm going to call this, for lack of a better word, orange, because I don't know what else you'd call that color. And I'm going to go to diffuse, and I'm going to try and find a color that looks pretty close to what I see there, which looks about like that. And so looking at this from front view, I now have my one singular piece, my 2 double pieces, and my 1 orange. And now I just need to simply Shift D one more time and press the Enter key and drag this over. And so now I have this part done. So what I have now is all 5 of these. And if you want, you can decide how you want to organize this. But if I were to just basically to deselect all, and then box select these, and then simply drag them all up, I can drag them up on my screen. I can drag them up on my screen so that they sort of situate right up here so I can sort of see them and I can keep track of them. Now, another thing you may want to consider is you may even want to use different layers for each of the individual parts that you're going to be doing, if that's easier to organize, or if you want to put them all around the perimeter. It's your kind of call, but I won't go through building each of the pieces, but obviously here you're going to add some text to this here. You're going to obviously use cylinders, and then bring this out, take out the middle portion to make the wheels and so forth, but try to start building these pieces using this sort of concept here. So hopefully that makes sense. Make sure, once again, and I'll just do that before I close, you want to always make sure you save this. So File, Save As, and I would go to where I'm going to be saving my stuff, which is my computer animation, into my assignments, and I would call this, for lack of a better name, something like ATV Lego Piece Modeling, and save it. So thanks for watching. I'll give you the next video in a little bit.